In the darkness, a teenage boy suddenly wakes up to find himself in a rapidly ascending elevator. Glancing around, he is startled by a creature. As the elevator reaches the ground, the door opens from above, and he finds himself surrounded by a crowd of boys, referring to him as a greenie. Frightened, he starts running, accidentally tripping and falling, only then realizing he is in an area enclosed by towering stone walls on all sides. The greenie is thrown into the pit. Soon after, the leader of this place, Albie, arrives. The greenie explains that he can't remember anything. Albie reassures him, stating that everyone here has gone through the same experience and that he'll remember his name in a few days. Albie offers to give him a tour. Albie explains that they call this place the Glade, where they have formed a rudimentary society. No one retains memories beyond their names. The elevator, known as the Box, bringing supplies and a new boy every month, but no one knows who is behind it or the reasons for this occurrence. Newt, the second in charge, comes over and welcomes him. Albie continues to give him the tour, and he notices an entrance expressing his curiosity. Albie mentions that survival here follows 3 rules. Everyone must contribute, never harm another glader, and most importantly, never go beyond the walls. Chuck arrives to assist him in settling down, but as Chuck speaks, the greenie heads towards the entrance. Chuck quickly catches up to halt him, and they encounter 2 guys who have just returned. Chuck explains that they are runners, and only runners are allowed to go into the maze. When he attempts a closer look, Gally pushes him and prevents him from entering the maze. He becomes agitated, not understanding why he can't go beyond the walls. Suddenly, the massive doors slowly close. At night, the Gladers start a bonfire party. Newt explains that the maze doors open during the day and close at night. Minho is the keeper of the runners, and their responsibility is to explore the maze during the day, memorize the layout, and attempt to find a way out. Runners must be the strongest and fastest because there are creatures called grievers inside the maze. If they don't make it out before the doors close, no one survives the night. The maze changes every night, so they still haven't figured it out in 3 years. Newt shows him around, introducing diverse jobs, such as builders, butchers, and doctors. The greenie expresses a desire to be a runner. Newt is surprised and informs him that only the chosen ones can be runners. Gally challenges the greenie to a wrestling match. During the bout, he hits his head on the ground, triggering a sudden recollection, and he remembers his name is Thomas. That night, Thomas has a strange dream. The following morning, Albie brings Thomas to a wall inscribed with every glader's name and asks him to carve his own, officially welcoming him to the group. As Thomas starts to fit in, Newt asks him to retrieve fertilizer. In the woods, Ben suddenly appears, launching a sudden attack on him, saying, "It's all your fault." After breaking free, Thomas quickly runs back, and the others subdue Ben, realizing he has been stung and infected by grievers. Due to Ben's violation of the rules, the decision is made to banish him into the maze. As the doors are about to close, Minho throws Ben's belongings into the maze, compelling him to leave. Later, Ben's name is crossed out. At night, Thomas experiences a similar dream once again. In this dream, he envisions a research facility where he and a girl undergo a procedure. A woman says, "Wicked is good," and asks Thomas to make a choice. Thomas awakens from his dream and sees Albie heading into the maze with Minho. Thomas questions Newt about why Albie, who isn't a runner, is allowed to enter the maze. Newt explains that Albie was the first to arrive and spent a month alone before uniting everyone as new boys arrived. He knows better than anyone, and he decides to retrace Ben's path to understand why Ben was attacked during the day. As the day progresses and Albie and Minho haven't returned, everyone anxiously awaits at the maze entrance. Just as the doors start closing, Minho arrives carrying Albie, who has been stung, but they are unable to reach the entrance in time. Thomas rushes into the maze to help them, but all 3 become trapped. As night falls, the 2 decide to hoist Albie high onto the wall to hide him from the grievers. However, when a griever approaches, Minho abandons Thomas. Thomas slides behind the vine, managing to evade the griever. Thinking he has escaped, he discovers slime on his shoulder. Realizing there is a griever above, Thomas immediately starts sprinting in a desperate attempt to escape. He runs into Minho. The maze starts changing, and Thomas lures the griever into a closing passageway, causing it to be crushed. The next day, Thomas and Minho bring Albie back to the glade. Gally claims that Thomas has jeopardized the peace between the Gladers and the Grievers. However, Minho thinks that Thomas should become a runner. As they debate, the box arrives earlier than usual, bringing the first girl to the glade. In her hand is a note stating that she's the last one ever. The girl wakes up and calls out Thomas before passing out again. All eyes turn to Thomas. With so many questions, they hope the girl can provide answers once awake. Thomas decides to go back to the maze to find answers, believing that the Griever they killed may have some leads on what they are up against. Minho won't let him go alone, but other runners quit because of Albie's injury. After a while, Minho gathers a small group and enters the maze. Inside the dead Griever, they find an electronic device. Bringing it back to the glade, they notice the device has the same letters WCKD written on it. Thomas points out that those who trapped them here are the ones creating the Grievers, and they should investigate the maze for more clues. Gally calls for Thomas to be punished for violating rules and inciting others to do the same. He emphasizes that the rules are the only thing that has ever held them together. Newt decides to punish Thomas with a day in the pit without food and officially designates him as a runner. Minho then takes Thomas to the runner's secret base, revealing the entire maze map. He requests Thomas to keep the fact that they haven't found an exit yet a secret from the rest of the Gladers to maintain their hope. The outer layer of the maze is divided into sections 1 to 8. Each night, sections open and close sequentially. The device from the Griever indicates that section 7 could be a potential lead. The girl is awake. She is at the top of the tower and throws rocks at the boys below. She only allows Thomas to approach. She reveals her name is Teresa. Once Teresa is brought up, the cage never descends again. Teresa vaguely recalls a group of people staring at her, with a female voice repeatedly saying, "Wicked is good." Thomas mentions that she was in his dreams. Teresa has 2 syringes of serum. Thomas believes it is a cure for the infection, and he injects one into Albie. After the serum takes effect, Albie passes out again. That night, Thomas deals with his punishment of being locked up. Chuck brings him food and asks Thomas to give a little carved statue to his parents. Even though Chuck doesn't remember his own parents, he believes they miss him. Thomas returns the statue and assures Chuck that he'll be able to give it to his parents himself. The next morning, Minho and Thomas investigate the 7th section. Thomas hears the device making a clicking sound and guides them to a place Minho has never seen before. On the wall, there are also the letters WCKD. Just when they think it's another dead end, the lights on the device turn green, opening a new door. It leads them to a tunnel where there is slime from the Griever. Suddenly, a scanning device inside the tunnel goes off, triggering an alarm. The doors start closing, forcing them to quickly escape, avoiding traps and finally managing to get out. When they return, they share this discovery with the others, suggesting that the tunnel might be the Griever's nest or potentially a way out. Albie finally wakes up and Thomas informs him about what they discovered, but Albie says that they won't let them escape. He mentions that Thomas was their favorite and questions him about why he came here. A commotion outside interrupts. The doors that were supposed to be closed are still open, along with the other 3 slowly opening. Grievers invade the glade, causing chaos and casualties. Thomas leads everyone into hiding, and Chuck gets grabbed by a Griever about to get stung. Albie rushes out to save Chuck, knocks off the stinger from its tail, but gets captured himself. Thomas rushes out to rescue Albie, but finds the Grievers are gone, and many people have died. Gally blames Thomas for what happened. Thomas realizes that a Griever's stinger can restore memories, and he decides to inject himself with it. In a daze, Thomas begins to recall some fragments. Thomas wakes up to find himself and Teresa in the pit. Minho and Newt inform him that Gally has taken control. Thomas confesses that everything here is an experiment that began when they were little. All the children had their memories wiped, and every month one boy is placed in the glade. He and Teresa are part of the organization behind all this. Newt urges him to pull himself together and lead everyone out, or the others are dead for nothing. Gally intends to sacrifice the 2 to the Grievers to restore peace. Thomas and the others counterattack, gaining the upper hand, convincing everyone that risking going into the maze is their best chance to return home. Most of the Gladers choose to leave with them. Thomas takes everyone to the 7th section where they encounter a Griever. They all fight together, and unfortunately, a few lose their lives. Chuck and Teresa, holding the device, enter the tunnel, and there is a locked door that requires an 8-digit password. Realizing it's the sequence in which the maze would open, they successfully open the door, and everyone rushes inside. The outer door closes, crushing the griever. They continue forward until they reach a door. Upon entering, they discover dead bodies everywhere. They arrive at a control room similar to the one in Thomas's dreams. Thomas opens the message on the screen. A woman introduces herself as Ava Page, a part of a controversial group called World in Catastrophe, Kill Zone Experiment Department. She congratulates them on passing the test and explains that the world has been devastated by a massive solar flare and an emergence of a virus affecting people's brains, causing billions of deaths. They were chosen as research subjects because they are immune to the virus, and studying their brains may lead to a cure. In the video, opponents of the experiment storm in, killing all the scientists, and Ava then commits suicide. A door opens, and the group prepares to leave. Gally appears, also gets stung, and insists that they will never be free. He shoots at Thomas, and at the same time, Minho throws a spear at Gally. Chuck pushes Thomas out of the way but gets shot himself. Chuck gives the little sculpture to Thomas, and Thomas is in extreme grief. Armed personnel similar to those in the video storm in, and the group is taken to a helicopter. The helicopter rises into the air, revealing the full view of the maze. In a conference room, Ava walks in and wipes fake blood off her head, announcing that the first phase was very successful. They have taken the bait. Now, the second phase of the experiment is about to begin.
Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.